Today, I want to talk to you about two tragedies, worlds apart but in some ways related. The heartbreaking loss of Ashling Murphy here in Ireland, and the devastating events at Port Arthur in Tasmania, Australia, 1996. Though these tragedies happen in different places at different times, they share profound lessons about violence, resilience, and the need for meaningful change. Ashling Murphy was a vibrant, talented young woman, a teacher, a musician, and a beloved member of the community. Her life was tragically cut short, as we all well know, while she was simply out for a run. This senseless act of violence not only took the life, but left an entire nation grappling with grief and anger. We saw an outpouring of love and support, and a collective cry for change. Her story reminds us all of the urgent need to protect women in public spaces. It's not just an Irish issue, it's a global one. In 1996, a small peaceful town of Port Arthur was shattered by one of the worst mass shootings in modern history. 35 lives were lost and dozens more were injured. It was this event that left Australia heartbroken and searching for answers. The Australian government, however, under Prime Minister John Howard, acted swiftly. They introduced sweeping gun laws, reforms that helped prevent further tragedies of this scale. It showed the world how a nation can turn grief into action and make meaningful change to protect its people. What ties these two events together is the collective shock and heartbreak felt by communities. Both Ashling Murphy's murder and Port Arthur's massacre forced us to face uncomfortable truths about the prevalence of violence in our society. They showed us the need for proactive solutions and the importance of taking a stand to protect those who are most vulnerable. In the aftermath of tragedy, the strength of a community is tested. In Australia, they united to demand stricter gun laws, and the government, unlike in Ireland, listened to the people. In Ireland, we hear growing calls for better protection for women, for accountability, and the action to ensure this doesn't happen again. This is where leadership matters. Leadership that listens, that guides, and that turns outrage into real, tangible change. If I were elected to represent the people of Ireland, one of the first things I would demand from the government is the implementation of policies to minimise the possibility of such tragedies happening again. We must bring laws in to prevent individuals with criminal records or violent histories from other countries from entering Ireland. I know this would create a significant cost to the government. However, what good are we if we can't protect the vulnerable people of our society? Now let me ask you up straight. Am I wrong to advocate such measures to be taken? Am I wrong to stand up and make a video to highlight this, which I believe makes 100% sense? If nothing is changed from the tragic events like this, that the people that represent us are quite frankly incompetent or unwilling to make a decision that truly for the best interest of the people. This is the least we can do to honour the women of Ireland who have fallen victim to such crimes. We owe it to them, to their families, and to the generations of women to come. We owe it to Ashling Murphy and to the countless others to ensure their stories are not forgotten. Let their memory inspire us, channel our grief and anger into moments of justice, equality, and safety. And what's more, some people may say, "Oh, he knows nothing about politics. This is just waffle." To those people, I would say this. Let's pretend for a minute I was elected as a member of the Irish government. How I would get such policies implemented into the Irish security services. So what I would want is to stop people with serious criminal records from other countries from entering Ireland. This is important for keeping our communities safe and making sure we're doing everything we can to protect people. Let me explain how this process will work step by step so it's easy to understand. First, we start by doing our homework. Firstly, we would look at other countries and what they're doing. Countries like United States and Australia, they have strong systems in place to check people's backgrounds before they come. We'd study these systems to see what works and what could work for Ireland. We'd also talk to experts like the Gardaí, immigration officers, legal advisors to make sure our plan is fair and effective. Next, we need to build support. I would meet with other politicians, community groups, and local organisations to explain why this is important. We'd hold public meetings and ask for feedback from you, the people, to make sure we're on the right track. This is about listening to what you want and making sure this is a policy that reflects your concerns. Once we've gathered all the information and support, we'll bring the idea to the Dáil. This is called a motion. It's where we officially propose the idea and explain why it's needed. Politicians would discuss it, and even if enough of them agree, we'd move on to the next stage. The next step is to turn this idea into law. We'd work with legal experts to write a clear and fair bill. This bill would explain exactly how the policy works, like checking international databases to see if someone has a serious criminal record. It would also lay out who's responsible for making sure the law is followed. Then, we bring the bill back to the Dáil for a vote. Politicians would debate it, suggest changes if needed, and vote on it. If it was passed, it goes to the Seanad for more discussions and approval. After that, the President signs it and it becomes law. Once this law is in place, we need to make sure it works. This means training Gardaí immigration officers on the new rules and giving them access to the tools they need, like international databases. We'd also run a public awareness campaign so everyone knows about the new policy and how it works. And finally, we keep an eye on how it works. We check if the law is doing what it's supposed to do and make changes if there are any problems. It's about making sure policies stay fair and effective. If I were elected, I would push for these changes because it's the least we can do to keep our communities safe and to show the respect for those who have been victims of violence. This is about doing the right thing for Ireland and making sure it's a country that protects its people. So let me know, would you agree with the way I'm thinking? Or do you think things are okay the way they are and there's nothing that needs to change?